This is Notes for 6.2 Solving Systems of Equations by Substitution. So, substitution is just one method used to solve systems of equations. The other methods are graphing and the elimination method. So, graphing is where we find the point of intersection on a graph. Substitution is where we find the point of intersection by algebraic means, by substituting one part of an equation into the other equation. And elimination we're going to get to in the coming sections. Okay. So the first thing I want you to do is start by writing down what you see. Okay, here, you can pause the video. And then when you're done with that, we're going to start with examples. So, step 1 is saying solve one equation for one variable. Choose an easy equation, meaning examine both equations. Okay? Notice how one equation might be easier than the other equation, meaning the first equation or the second equation, in this case, the first equation, is easier to, maybe easy is the wrong word, but just it's got less parts to it. So in this case, in example 1, 8x equals y is much less involved than the second equation, which is negative 9x plus 2y equals 21. So when we look back at step 1, I'm going to solve one equation for one variable, choose an easy one. I would have chosen this first equation, okay? Now, hopefully you're looking at that first equation and you're saying, isn't it already solved? And that's what I wrote in the next part of step 1. I said, sometimes one of these equations is already solved for one variable. So, this first equation, we would say it's solved for y in terms of x. So that's great. That's the one we want to use. So now, it says step 2, substitute the equation that you chose, basically, from step 1 into the second equation. So, substitute what you know. So, I know that y is equal to 8x. So that means that all the y's in the second equation can be replaced with 8x. Okay? So now, step 2 says substitute. So I'm going to take negative 9x. I'm just going to spread my equation out a little bit. Negative 9x plus 2y. And instead of writing y, I'm going to open up a set of parentheses, make it a little wider, equals 21. I'll use a different color to show that 8x is going to go into the y position. Okay? It's all about substituting what you know. Now I'm going to keep working. So negative 9x plus 16x equals 21. Let's take a look back up at step 3. It says now that your second equation is in terms of one variable, meaning look at this equation. You can look here or here. In both lines of work, it's in terms of one variable. What variable is it in terms of? It's in terms of x. Notice how there's no second variable. This means that this whole equation is only using an x now. Now that there's only an x, this is easier to solve. Actually, instead of writing easier to solve, it might be better to say solvable. I don't think that's how you spell solvable. Let's not write that word. So, easier to solve because there's just one variable. You can solve it because there's just one variable. Okay, let's keep going. So, step 4 says use the answer. All right, we're not quite there yet. So, negative 9x plus 16x. So, we're down here and we're combining like terms. So, 16 minus 9. We get 7x equals 21. And then we're going to divide. And we get that x is 3. But we're not done yet. Remember, we were only on step 3, really. So now, step 4, look up above again. Step 4 says use the answer you found in step 3 to substitute again into either of the system's equations. So in other words, we have to take this and use it again. Now, I would choose the easiest equation to work with. It doesn't matter which equation you work with, as long as you choose an equation that has x and y in it. And usually, in this case, they would all have x or y in them. So there are times when there's only one equation that doesn't, but for now we have both equations. We have both variables in both equations. Okay. So I'm going to pick the easier of the two equations. So 8x equals y. I'm going to substitute what I know. 8 times parentheses equals y. And I'm going to substitute my 3 from my answer, right? Let's move this down here. And I'm going to get 24 equals y. Now I have my y value. And the final step, step 5, look up top again, says write your solution using both of your answers you found as an ordered pair. So the solution is 3, 24, because all ordered pairs should be written in the x, y form. Okay? Just reminding you. All right. So pause the video if you need to. I'm going to move on to the next question. Number 2. I wrote that this one was a little more challenging because if you take a minute to look, neither of the equations is already solved for. Okay? So, in number 2, we actually have to look at both equations and then decide which one would be the easiest to solve for one of the variables. So let's look at the top one. Would it be quick to solve for x? No. Would it be quick to solve for y? No. Okay. Let's look at the second equation. Would it be quick to solve for y? Yes. Would it be quick to solve for x? No. Okay. So let's solve for y. So first step. So what did I just do? Well, I made it so that I solve for y. That means I got y alone. And you can do this for x too. It doesn't matter. Whichever one's easier to do this to, just get one of the variables alone. So now I know that y is equal to 5x minus 8. The next step, I'll do in blue, second step. Okay, substitute what you know into one of the equations, okay? In this case, I would use the other equation. So I used this first one. So first I used this one here. Now I'm going to use this one second, okay? So negative 3x plus 3y equals negative 12. And we're going to substitute what we know. So we know something about y. All right. So I'm going to spread out my parentheses nice and wide. And then I'll use what I learned about y. So I'm going to take this and substitute it. 5x minus 8. And I'm going to keep working. Now I have all x in one equation. So negative 3x plus 15, minus 24 equals negative 12. And then I'm going to combine like terms. So I get 12x minus 24 equals negative 12. I'm going to add 24 to both sides. I get 12x equals positive 12, and that means x would have to equal 1. So I'm almost done. Third step. Okay, third step. Pick either of the equations. I'm picking the bottom one. That one's easy to use. Y minus 5x equals negative 8. Work smarter, not harder, right? So y minus 5, open parenthesis, equals negative 8. Substitute what you found, x to equal, and then keep working. Y minus, not minus, I should say y, and then this makes negative 5. So now it's y minus 5 equals negative 8. Add 5 to both sides. Y equals negative 3. Now we have x and y, and we have to write it as an ordered pair. So the solution is 1, negative 3. Okay? See you later.